Hello everybody, this is Richard South. For those of you who have literally just joined us, just a quick reminder that our engineering team is on the line throughout the webinar, available to you via the chat window. So do please feel free to drop them a line with any questions you've got. They'll either answer those off live or Richard and I will pick those up at the end of the webinar. Also, just to say, please do use that to give us sort of feedback throughout the webinar. Let us know your thoughts on what you're seeing. We really appreciate getting as much of that as possible. Webinars are one of the main ways which we communicate with our clients. Obviously at this end we're just in a sort of small room projecting into the darkness, so it's great if you are able to sort of use that to give us as much feedback as possible. We really appreciate that. You'll be hearing some more from me later on to bring you up to speed with some of the few recent developments on my side of the business. But the bulk of today's webinar to show you all of the new features that we'll be introducing in v3.2 is going to be covered by my colleague, our product architect, Richard Benwell. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Richard, and I'll look forward to speaking to you all a little.
Thanks very much, Richard, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Really great experience to be showing you through the latest version, Squared Up 3.2. I'm just going to bring up the agenda here. We have about an hour's session planned. The good news for you guys is it's actually the second time we've run this webinar today, so hopefully we can keep it nicely within that 1 hour. Do stick around till the end. We've got some great news towards the end of this webinar as well. So what we're going to do is kick off really straight into Squared Up 3.2. So we're going to look at what's new. I'm going to go straight in, as always, into some live demos. No holding back here. So I'll have probably one slide per feature, and then we'll look at that live in the product. I'll finish off with just wrapping up around download availability and upgrade guidance. Then I'll hand over back to Richard, who will talk you through some of the resources available for Squared Up 3.2 and Squared Up in general, so where you can find out more. He'll talk through some of the upcoming events and other news we have, and then finish off with some important news. So as I say, do please stick around. That should be probably about an hour's time from now. So heading straight into the Squared Up releases, just sort of looking back at where we have been and where we are and where we're going briefly. If you are a Squared Up sort of customer, so thanks very much for joining us and sort of supporting us, on this journey. Way back in V1, we've probably got some customers online that joined us with version 1 of the product. Probably many of you were on version 2, or maybe some of you have now only just sort of joined us since the version 3 release. But version 3, we've really changed the focus of Squared Up and really taking it beyond just HTML5 for SCOM to enterprise application monitoring. And we launched with that message and with a new Squared Up v3 at Ignite last year in September. That was Squared Up version 3 with a brand new total dashboard architecture and visual application discovery and analysis, plus data on demand and plenty of other new features, really built from the ground up with this intent to deliver first-class enterprise application monitoring. We then released Squared Up 3.1 in February of this year, so that introduced the web API, connector, and many other enhancements to Squared Up. And here we are today with Squared Up 3.2, really addressing some of the fundamentals in that core architecture and improvements sort of across the board of Squared Up, and I'll come on to that in a second. What I wanted to just sort of relay to you, though, is our plans going forward. Having released V3, brand new architecture, it's taking us a little while just to round out that architecture, but where we'll be going with this for the rest of the year is hopefully a much more sort of fast-paced release cycle. So we'll have a 3.3 later this year, hopefully maybe towards the end of the summer. You'll see an update there, and then also a 3.4 before the year is out, and hopefully at Ignite we'll be showing a preview of that. Now, we're actually working in those releases already in parallel to 3.2. So 3.2 and what you see today is not actually the sum total of what the team here have been working on over the past few months. We do also have these other plans and these other projects in parallel, and I'll tell you 3.4 is going to be an amazing release. So we'll be announcing that at Ignite, and there's going to be some hopefully astonishing improvements that we'll be making to the product in that release. So stick with us. This is really just sort of only sort of part way through the journey for 2017, with lots of exciting things to come for the rest of the year. So obviously we're going to be talking about Squared Up 3.2 today. So what's new in Squared Up 3.2? Really, the summary is across the board improvements of all of the fundamentals in the core architecture. What I mean by that, and what we'll kick off with when we first look at the features, is looking at performance and scale of the product. So there's two great improvements there, and I'll go on to do a demo of those in a second. Next up, we'll be looking at alert and health state management, and that doesn't sound too glamorous, too exciting, but really that is at the heart of SCOM and how you use your dashboards with Squared Up. So we're already looking back at some of the fundamentals of creating dashboards and monitoring with SCOM. We'll then look at dashboard and dashboard pack management in Squared Up 3.2, which we've drastically improved. And then what I'll do is I'll finish off with looking at some of the new features with external data integration. So this is one of the really big new features in the version 3 platform. We've had OMS, SQL, data on demand, the web API connection launched with 3.1. And in 3.2, we're taking those all one step further, enabling many new possibilities. So I'll finish off with that towards the end of the set of demos. So first off, performance and scale. What I'm going to talk about first is a redesign of the data warehouse integration. So actually we introduced, I think, data warehouse integration back in version 1.7 of the product. So pulled in the performance data directly from the data warehouse using direct SQL connections and put that alongside the data coming out of the Ops Manager DB. So revolutionary in its time. We've obviously been perfecting those queries, optimizing those queries since then. But with 3.2, we've just taken an opportunity to look again at the integration and see whether we can really make this work harder. At Squared Up, we're all about making SCOM work as hard as possible and make it as fast as possible. And we always felt like there was an opportunity to do just even more in this area. And also we wanted to set up some of the architecture to allow us to deliver more in those future releases, the 3.3 and 3.4. You'll see us leverage this new data warehouse integration. So to give you an idea, we obviously have sort of relatively small scale labs here at Squared Up for testing. But actually for scale testing, we lean on some of our development partners and customers. So we've been putting this into some of our larger customer environments. And the result is a top 10 low disk space report or dashboard across nearly 5,000 servers, which can be rendered in under 5 seconds. Fantastic results. So we've seen that live in that large scale environment, and really is sort of amazing to see the data come back that quickly, and really does open up many new possibilities of those very high level summary dashboards across very large scale infrastructures. What I'm going to do to show you this today is not that sort of live environment, the 5,000 server environment, but I'm going to switch over to our demo lab. I'm going to give you a flavor of those performance improvements in our own demo lab. So let me just first of all fire up Squared Up, and actually I'm going to start with 3.1. So don't start looking for all of the improvements just yet. This is 3.1 as you know it. Let me just sort of scroll down there. You see down there in the version 3.1 in the corner. What I'm going to do is just fire up a new dashboard, and we'll build a top 10 dashboard. That's really where the performance improvements come into play, because it allows us to query our entire environment, but bring back really the data points of interest, the low disk space, the high CPU, and so on. So I'm just going to select performance bar, remembering this is 3.1. Now what I'm going to do here is, rather than just the all Windows computer group or something like that, we've actually created some groups that go beyond just all the computers. They put as many SCOM objects in this group as possible. So I'm going to choose the really large group, which has about 500 items in, and click next. And you'll see already I'm waiting for the metric chooser to load, because what we're doing here is looking at that group. Now that is a large group with 500 objects in it. You might have seen that really large group in the selector as well that has about 3,000 objects in, and I'm not going to click on that right now because you generally hit some limitations either in SQL or in the IIS download limit that actually prevents us sitting on top of a group that large. So really large group has about 500 objects in it. What I can do now is search for free disk space. You see it takes a little while, but that's not so bad. This is the performance you're used to. And you can see here that actually it's loading and it's taking a little while, and it gets there in the end. I'm just going to switch to hourly data because that is going to be faster. It's a lot faster to pick out those hourly data points out of the data warehouse than to look at all the raw data. And then I'm going to switch to a top-end dashboard and just show the top 10. Just wait for that to load. And this will be ascending, so it should bring the lowest disk space. So you can see that experience. That's what you're used to today. Not terrible. It is usable at that level. I'm just going to hit publish as well, and let's just name this 3.1 top 10. Just to remind us that this is the current version. So hit publish. That's the sort of performance we'll see. And now this is a good example of how long that takes to render. So that we've just looked at the dashboard designer experience. As a user, you have to wait several seconds there for that to render. Obviously, if that does then increase in terms of scope from 500 servers up to 1,000 servers, the times increase and so on. And you start waiting maybe up to about 20 seconds. If you do get very large groups, you will hit that limit on either the SQL parameter limit or the IIS download limit. So what I'm going to do is just push that to the side. I'm going to bring up 3.2. And what we're going to do is just quickly run through the same demo, but running on top of 3.2. And I can do this quickly because it is so much faster. So in 3.2, I'm just going to choose the same options. I'm just going to choose that really large group. Hit next. You can see already I'm immediately available to choose a metric. There's no waiting around for the contents of that group to load. And you can also already see the results have appeared. We have predefined some defaults here to switch to hourly and a top 10. So when you're starting to build this dashboard, you're going to get great fast results immediately, and then you can always expand the scope of your display. But a top 10 based on the hourly data set comes back extremely quickly. So actually creating this dashboard has been much faster. And then if I just finish off by titling this and publishing it, we'll look at the page load performance. So I'm just going to leave that not in the nav bar. And hopefully you can see already the difference in performance there. Let me just go through that again. So this is 3.1 on the right-hand side in a relatively small environment. And you can see that's taking a good number of seconds to load. I think probably we had some cache data earlier. And then 3.1, you barely see it load. So that's what we see in our labs. But I say we've also verified that in very large environments. We're really keen to get this out into your hands. You will benefit both from any dashboards of this type, or even with line graph data, will be much faster straight away out of the box just with the upgrade to 3.2. But of course, hopefully now, if you can see the performance, the ability to scope these queries in a very large way, you'll perhaps start to think about different dashboards that you can create for your business to really highlight some of the resource usage within your environment. All right, so that was the first demo. The second area, and I'll come back to that same dashboard in just a second, that we've really looked at with 3.2 is open access. So in 3.2, open access has a brand new rendering engine at its heart. It's based on the latest Chromium release. And dashboards now are rendered faster, more reliably, and more accurately with this new open access engine. This engine is actually what was released with 3.1.11. So if you've been keeping up to date with the maintenance releases, you will have this engine already. We've taken that into 3.2, made some further improvements, especially in the area of Vader diagrams and dashboards, to make sure that we're getting the fastest possible open access dashboards. The results are excellent. They are so much better than the previous engine. As I say, it is built on the latest Chromium version, so the web browser at the heart of Chrome, and really does give these great results. And when I say accurate, I also mean there that the dashboards in an open access render will now be hopefully indistinguishable from any dashboards you get interactively. So let's take a look at this in action. I'm going to come back to my performance dashboard here. I'm just going to round this out, I think, just to make it a little bit more interesting and show off that top end performance a little bit further. So I'm just going to bring that over, click on performance. Let's go with the really large group. So the really large groups, this is now around 3,000 objects in SCOM. I'm going to take a proc info metric, and it comes back almost instantly. And I'm just going to make that descending because we're interested in high CPU. So we now have high CPU, that's for the last hour, average for the last hour, and low disk across our entire environment. So hit publish. And there's our dashboard. You see that render very quickly, interactively. And now I'm just going to click on the open access version. I'm going to choose embedded. This is a great option if I want to sort of tear off this dashboard and then embed it in some other web application or push it out to some web monitor. So I'm just going to hit generate there and preview that, and you'll see open access fire up and render this dashboard. Now, there is always a slight delay when the very first open access dashboard is rendered, but you'll see that come back in just a second, and we'll have an open access version of that performance dashboard. So this is an open access version, so it's an image. I can show you here. It's just an image that's been served up. So an open access version of a query across our entire management group for low disk space and high CPU. Come back in just a few seconds. That now can be published out to hundreds or thousands of users via open access, and with the open access engine improvements, you can now be rendering more open access dashboards simultaneously as well. As well as the general sort of first time performance, what you get is a very nice performance when you do resizing. So bearing in mind that what's having to happen here is we're having to ask the server to re-render the dashboard on the server side. So if I change the size, for example, we are dynamically changing that on the server side, re-rendering and serving that image up. You can see it's still an image that's been resized to fit. So that engine both gives you that first time load response, but also the resize response as well. So generally open access now is really flying, and you can see in terms of accuracy, if I put that sort of alongside my interactive dashboard, virtually indistinguishable, because essentially they're both using the same Chrome renderer. So really fantastic results from an open access. If you have been using open access and you don't yet have your hands on 3.1.11 or 3.2, obviously upgrade and see the benefits there. If you're yet to really explore open access, hopefully with 3.2 you'll have a great experience with it and sort of see the benefits very quickly. All right, so they're the two performance improvements I wanted to focus on. We have made some other performance improvements. Hopefully you'll see that pages are loading a little bit faster. We've made some performance improvements to searching as well. What I'm going to do now is move on to sort of the next broad topic that we've addressed with 3.2. And this actually is a whole bunch of different features that sort of pull together to really improve, really radically improve alert and health state management, which is really at the heart of SCOM. So the first feature I want to talk about is what I'm calling today health state summaries. We still really don't have a perfect name for this. It's not really a big feature. It's a very sort of subtle UI change. But we're calling it health state summaries in this webinar today. But the sort of other name for it is simply, why is it red? That's really what we are addressing with this health state summary change. So let me just bring up an image of what we have today in the product, which is something like this, right? So very, very familiar, used on all sorts of dashboards and perspectives. So it's the status tile here showing 4 servers and their health state. In fact, this is the tile that's out of the default servers dashboard. So it's showing me the 4 servers that are in a critical state. Now, the problem is, and it's been a sort of definitely a personal frustration of my own, but generally something that all users will hit, which is, I don't know why these servers are red. I've got 4 servers, they're all red. And we know that with SCOM, these servers could be red for very, very different reasons. Even with the best tuned environment, you could have one server that's red because it's literally going to go offline. It's high CPU, it can no longer function, or maybe it's red because of some group policy update or some other sort of fairly minor error that has occurred and is not affecting any applications. So the questions I have when I look at this are, why is APO1 red, for example? Is it the same reasons as the others are red? I don't have any way to start sort of correlating errors across these 4 servers right now. Is the issue with these servers related to the actual problem that I'm investigating, the reason I came to this dashboard? Is APO1 having such a bad problem that it's impacting my application and my users, or is this just sort of a background issue that needs addressing sometime today or tomorrow? What is the priority? Which one do I look at first? I see this on my dashboard. Is it a false alarm? Is it a case of low importance issue, or do I really need to jump on this? And essentially, from a user experience point of view, do I have to click on each one of these to find out what the problem is? So those are the problems we're addressing with health state summaries. So let me switch over now to 3.2 and let's get going with that. So I'm just going to come back to the welcome page here. No changes on this page, but if I come to my web servers, so I'll look at my IS web servers for a start. This is a really good example where with 3.1, we would just have a list of servers. Some might be in critical, some might be in warning, some might be in green. But now with 3.2, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can all see that on the webinar there. That's probably a good zoom level. You can see straight away, I now have my health state summary below the server name and next to the icon. So at a quick scan, I can see obviously which ones are red and which ones are green, but I can also now instantly see I have some memory usage issues on these servers. I have a SQL Server agent on these servers, an APM issue here, and here I have a 3-state PowerShell test monitor issue. You might be asking yourself what on earth that is. Well, we'll talk about that a little later towards the end of the webinar. But you can see that I am getting those answers to those questions I had on my slide there. I do know perhaps that maybe one is more important than the other, that they're certainly not the same issue. I've got a mix of issues here. So real benefits. Now, of course, those benefits are available anywhere in the product you have a status tile or a dynamic table or anything else showing status. So for example, if I do drill down into Squat SQL 1 here, now at a perspective level, so I'm looking at this server specifically, I can see those 4 different DB engines, and I can see that actually, yes, they have different issues as well. Very hard to see this if you're just looking at sort of the alerts kind of bubbling up at the top level or just looking at an orange server. You don't know really what the issue is. I can drill down even further, of course, and see any issues that are on individual databases. While I'm here, I'm just going to point out another nice little improvement in 3.2 is we have now breadcrumbs at a perspective level. So if I drill down to any SCOM object anywhere, I'll have a full breadcrumb to allow me to come back up to the hosted objects. If I drill down into performance data, I'll be able to navigate to the objects for that performance data as well. So really kind of changing the user experience around navigation as well. So hopefully you can see the benefits in bringing the health state summaries into the status tile. We think sort of it's a very small change, really sort of actually a subtle change, but will have a very, very large effect on the user experience and your ability to locate the root causes of these health issues. Of course, it's not just those dashboards as well. We will also have the benefit of health state summaries in Vader. So let's bring up our trusty Vader application here. So this is our demo application. You've probably seen this on many webinars in the past. If I switch over to the topology view, instantly, before all that performance data is loaded, I already now have a good idea of what's going on in this application. Memory usage threshold on APO1, SQL 03 and SQL 04 with high CPU and an Oracle table space error there. Let me just zoom in just a touch. Whoop, that's quite a lot of zoom. I can also expand so I can see the full story there within Vader. So before, again, having to drill down, I've got a good sense of where the priorities are and piecing together that information I have. So hopefully you'll agree, a really fantastic change there, very subtle but really sort of fantastic change. I wish we'd done this in V1 of the product. The truth is that actually this is not an easy thing to do through the SCOM SDK. So SCOM does not provide this information. That's why you don't see this in the SCOM console or other tools. But we have found a very interesting way of putting this data back so that, again, with high performance, with the speed you'd expect with Squared Up, we can pull in this alert information alongside your SCOM health state. So tying into that, so another feature looking at alert and health state management, really trying to understand why your dashboards are red, why objects are red, is this old chestnut, which is rules versus monitor alerts. Or again, sort of to call it by its sort of a plain speaking name, how many times do I need to tell you don't close monitor alerts? A problem I'm sure we've all had in our environment, a problem we still sort of have today. We often see customers install Squared Up for the first time and then realize that actually they have so many objects that are still red because finally you're surfacing it on dashboards that are making that health state visible. So all the alerts have been closed, your problems haven't gone away, your objects are still red, your servers are still red and have problems, and that surfaces on your dashboards. So what we've done with 3.2 is, again, take another look at this, sort of really step back and said, well, how can we actually improve this fundamental SCOM complexity? It's actually a very powerful tool to have this difference between rules and monitors, but it has always been a complexity. It has always been something that end users haven't been able to grasp, understandably. So a few changes, and I'll sort of show you these in action in a second. First off, new icons. So we have a solid looking icon a bit like this, those alerts affect the health state. That's why they're solid. Just like the square you get with the status tile, if you see a sort of solid icon alert, it's affecting the health state of the object and making that object go red. If you see a hollow looking icon a bit like this, that does not affect the health state. The object does not go red. And we've sort of gone with this solid versus hollow to kind of give this idea that if you see, that sort of solid color, it is changing the health state. It's affecting your dashboards. The icons on the bottom, the hollow looking ones, do not affect the state of the object. They do not affect your dashboard. So hopefully really, really clearly and instinctively, you can see the difference and manage alerts appropriately. To help you along the way, we've reintroduced the reset button on monitor alerts. So you shouldn't be closing those alerts. I think generally the intention when someone closes a monitor alert is not just to pretend the problem's going to go away, but they want that problem to be reevaluated, or they think they've resolved it. They close the alert. Well, actually, what they want to do is probably reset the monitor so it's reevaluated. And of course, the alert will go away if the problem's gone away, or the alert will be re-raised if the problem's still there. So we've reintroduced the reset button on the alert drill down. And again, as an additional backstop, we have strengthened the barrier between users and closing monitor-based alerts. So we now have an additional warning and an additional confirmation required for a user to close monitor alerts. So let's look back at the product and see this in action. So I'm going to come up to, actually what I'm going to do is drill down into one of my SQL servers here. So let's drill down into this server. So that was great. This server is showing high CPU. Now, a really, really kind of good example straight away of those icons and sort of relating it to health state is that this server doesn't just have high CPU, which is affecting its health state. So the solid red there shows that the object is critical. The solid red here shows that this is the alert affecting that health state. And I can do that. I mean, I'm no expert in the SQL Server Management Pack, but now with these new icons, I can immediately tell you it's this alert that's actually affecting my server and my dashboard. These other alerts I can instantly tell you are rule-based alerts. They have the hollow icons. They are informational. They have happened at some point. In fact, some of these have happened a long time ago. I am safe to close them, dismiss them if I've acknowledged them. Obviously, I don't want to go just close that alert because it is a problem that's stateful and I have to go and address the actual underlying issue there. So for example, discovery failed. Okay, I can acknowledge that. So I can click on update state here. Defaults to close. That's what most people want to do. I can put in a comment and I can click update and that will go away. If I want to close this alert, let me just, I'll show you both here. It doesn't default to closed. And if I did click on closed, I get a warning here that we've done our best to try and explain in simple terms why you shouldn't be closing this alert. We do allow you to acknowledge this. So if you're a SCOM administrator or you are someone who understands the risks, you're doing this for a valid reason, you can still acknowledge that warning and click the update button. But really, there are no excuses now. If your users are still mistakenly closing monitor alerts using Squared Up, then I think you've probably got a good excuse for telling them that they're wrong and making kind of clear that they shouldn't be doing it. What I am going to do is just show you briefly how to, or what does happen when I do close this alert. So I'm just put in closed for demo. Whoops. So I am going to close this alert. So what's happened? Well, the alert's gone away. The alert's closed. It no longer is going to appear on this dashboard or the any top level dashboards, but the health state of the object's the same. So hopefully that's relatively clear why. If we come into monitored entity, we will still see the monitor is red, but we've just closed the alert. So we've just lost visibility of this issue from alerting point of view. Now, if I come back up to, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. If I come back up to my dashboard here, you'll see what happens with health state summaries, just tying it back to that last feature there. We have SQL 03, it is red. The health state summary does work by looking at the monitor alerts open for that object. You can see we don't have a monitor alert open for this object. And so we lose that health state summary. That is a consequence. Hopefully it makes sense why that's happened. But also hopefully you can see then that is actually going to help you spot monitors where the alert has been closed. If you ever see an object like this with without the health state summary, then you know the alert's been closed. Now, we do not yet support, again, through limitations of the SCOM SDK, showing health state summaries for groups and DAs, so they can contain a very large number of objects. It's very hard to just summarize the health of a group with those sort of large number of contained objects. But if you ever see a server or any sort of object that should be sort of hosted on that server without a health state summary, you know that someone has closed the alert. And of course, you can figure that out as well. I think I've actually just updated my perspective here as well. Have I not? No. So we can sort of always find that alert and find out who has closed it by looking at closed alerts as well. If I come back to my other server here, of course, if I did mean just to reevaluate that, I can come into the high CPU alert, and I should have clicked the reset monitor here. So if I click the reset monitor, that will do what I'm expecting, which is to close this alert. That's just taking a little while. There you go. So the alert's closed. I can see that it's closed there, and you can see the server's gone green. So that's the way to reset the monitor and the alert. That will, of course, go red again in just sort of a few minutes when it reevaluates the high CPU. So hopefully, that's all understandable from a SCOM administrator point of view, but hopefully with all these changes, we've now made that a lot more intuitive for your end users, who at the end of the day are the ones who are managing these alerts, not the SCOM administrator. So we believe with 3.2 we've really upped our game there and helped you guys really kind of keep your environments clean and understandable from an alert and health state point of view. All right, the next topic I'm going to cover is dashboard pack management. I'll just cover this sort of fairly quickly. In essence, we've added in just some new support for dashboard packs that give you much better visibility and control of all of your dashboards and perspectives. Dashboard packs are actually a fundamental feature of Squared Up v3 and the new platform, and you'll see us do much more work with dashboard packs over the coming releases, both in terms of community dashboard packs and giving you even more sort of management and use out of putting your dashboards into different dashboard packs. So we have an improved dashboard pack manager. We allow you to modify and delete dashboards from your community packs and view and delete your custom dashboards. So let me just bring up a demo of that. As I say, cover this fairly quickly, but the general gist is that in settings here, I have a revamped dashboard packs page. Hopefully gives you much more sort of understanding of what is installed in Squared Up. Now, we know that with Squared Up v3, there will be many more dashboards and perspectives built than in v2, and this is why we want to really sort of formalize the notion of dashboard packs and give you much more visibility. So you can see here I have some system dashboard packs. We don't let you delete those. If you delete those, you sort of lose all of your built-in perspectives like monitored entity and performance. You'll see then your dashboard packs that you have downloaded. So for example, let me just show you on import dashboard packs here. You might have seen on our recent webinars, we have a new F5 dashboard pack from Comtrade on top of the Comtrade management pack. We also have a nice dashboard pack for Oracle monitoring both on Linux and Windows. So, for example, if you have installed one of these, let's do the F5 one. So you install that. That's actually already imported. Let me just switch back to my settings. You can see that in the dashboard packs here that I now have this F5 Comtrade one. What I can now do is click on that and actually see the content, so much easier to see what has been added as part of a dashboard pack. And I have now fine-grained control over what to include from that dashboard pack as well. So if I want the perspectives, but I've built my own dashboards, I can delete those three. Delete those three dashboards, for example, or I can delete the whole pack. Now, just like with SCOM management packs, external dashboard packs are sealed, are immutable, just like with SCOM management packs. So actually, although I've deleted it here, I haven't deleted anything from a file point of view. I've just put an override against this dashboard pack to say I don't want that dashboard. And because it's an override, I can get rid of that override and essentially restore that. So a nice way of managing now your external dashboard packs from the community. And as I say, we'll be using this sort of new platform to produce many more community dashboard packs. Down the bottom, you also have visibility over your own dashboard packs, so looking at all the dashboards and perspectives that have been created in your environment, and again giving you fine-grained control over deleting those. If you've also done a migration or do a migration from V2 to V3, you'll see that actually that migration process packages all your V2 dashboards up into nice fine-grained dashboard packs in V3, and again you've got full control over each of those dashboard packs and the content. So you'll see us talk a lot more about this, as we produce more community packs and work with both customers and partners to produce those packs. All right, the last area I wanted to cover off in 3.2, and a key area of investment for us both with 3.2 and the rest of the 3. Releases this year, is external data integrations. It's, as I say, with V3 we had OMS, SQL and data on demand. With 3.1 we had the web API. And it's been really sort of wonderful for us to deliver those features and that sort of functionality in the platform, and then see actually our customers go way beyond what we managed to demonstrate on our sort of webinars and what we anticipated, and put together some really, really exciting solutions where they can pull all that data into Squared Up. So for example, we have seen customers use the OMS integration. That's been fantastic to see. We've done some webinars on that. ServiceNow, you would have seen us do some webinars on, and we're seeing some fantastic results in customer environments around that. But going beyond that, we've seen some customers integrating with VMware and some VMware analytics, for example, from a product called VM Turbo, and we've seen customers go beyond OMS and so on, and integrate with Elk and the Elastic product there, to be able to provide logging from Elk again into their perspectives and dashboards. And really, the result is again this idea of having the right data, right there when you need it. So all of this data customers may have already in their environment somewhere, but putting it straight into a dashboard or a perspective, so it's alongside all your SCOM data and all of your other data. Now, I wanted to sort of talk about two different improvements we've made with 3.2. The first one is with the Web API connector. So we're focused on the Web API connector and just taking that one step further in 3.2, filling out the solution and enabling some new integrations. And one we've been focusing on is Splunk. In terms of the actual changes to the connector, we have improved the SSL handling. So there's the option to ignore SSL cert errors, for example, if they're a self-signed cert or a generic cert, which is actually one obstacle we hit with Splunk. So out of the box, Splunk uses a default sort of generic and self-signed cert. So you have to ignore that when it's used in-house. We have extended the post requests to allow you to put in both JSON XML and also just standard text encoded data into those requests. So that enables compatibility with a whole new set of APIs out there. And we've also allowed you to parameterize the post data. Now, a bit of a mouthful. What that means is you can now use the web tile on perspectives and have the data that is sent to your web API endpoint automatically parameterized and automatically generated to use for example, the server name of the perspective you're on. So you can now have contextual web API queries putting data into the context of a particular server or a particular application. So we supported that with GET requests and the URL in 3.1. With 3.2, again, now integrating with more complex web APIs, you can essentially parameterize your post data so that the actual web API query is dynamic based on the SCOM object you're looking at. And we have an editor for editing those web API providers. So I wanted to show off Splunk and some of those other integrations. Rather than showing those in our sort of demo environment, what I wanted to do is now switch to not a live demo, but a video from one of our great customers called Intility, and Martin Ernst there, who also has his blog. So I put both of those web links there. So www.adatum.no, so that's in Norway, and intility.no. Martin's blog has some fantastic ideas, a lot of inspiration for ways of using SCOM and Squared Up and using that in real environments alongside other data as well. So please do check out his blog. But I asked Martin, who's been doing some of these fantastic integrations, just to put together a quick demo, just so we can kind of see what he's doing. And again, it's like real data and a real customer environment, including that Splunk data. So Martin very generously put this together just sort of last night for me. What you can see here is a drill down, so a perspective on a server. We've had to sort of blur out some of the details for sort of obvious reasons. You can see here I'm on the Windows Server perspective, so that's the standard SCOM data. You can see Martin then switch over to a firewall perspective, and this is actually data coming from ELK, so this is coming from the Elastic database, and actually pulling in all of the firewall interactions on this server. So if I want to troubleshoot maybe some networking issues on this server, one click and there it is in Squared Up, coming from an entirely different product that SCOM is not integrated in any other way apart from Squared Up here. Alongside that, you can see also a number of other perspectives, including OMS there at the top, but switching over to a vCenter perspective. Now, if you saw our webinar email go out, you might have seen support for vCenter listed there. The confusion was that actually we have people like Martin putting the Web API tile on top of products like vCenter. Now, you can't do that directly because vCenter authentication is more complex, and we don't support that authentication right now with the Web API tile, and we don't have any immediate plans to do so, but we are looking at it. But what Martin had done in his environment is put his own REST API on top of actually an older version of vCenter, to make that data available to other tools within his organization. And of course, actually then very, very easy to pull that data into Squared Up. So to be clear, we don't out of the box support integration with vCenter because of the authentication complexities, but really essentially if you can build a REST API, standard REST API on top of any data in your environment, then you can put it into Squared Up, and that's what Martin's done here, both with vCenter, and you'll see here in the Turbonomics tile, this is the VMware Analytics. So for this one server, I've managed to click and see both firewall traffic and also the health of the VM and the host. Just with one click, I can understand the performance of this from a hypervisor point of view. And then just lastly, a nice demo that Martin put together, very kind of keen to push Squared Up and the integrations to its limits. He has been looking at extending the alert views. So here we see an alert view, so a website is unavailable, and Martin's added in an extra perspective here to pull events in from Splunk using the Web API tile again. Now, there are some limitations with pulling the data in with a time context, so around the time of the alert, but essentially the principle is there to allow you to pull data in from that server from a product like Splunk as well, so not just limited to what SCOM or even OMS has to offer. So that's what I wanted to show you in terms of the demos. Hopefully that gives you a flavor of what we can now do with the Web API connector, and you'll see us again over the next few releases this year, really sort of exercising that and showing you what you can do. If you're interested in, for example, integration with Splunk, we'll be covering that in a deep dive. We'll do that both with a KB article, but also in one of our coffee break webinars coming up over the next few weeks. All right, the second part of the external data integration that I wanted to talk to you and what we've done in 3.2 is replacing the simple table display component that we had with a brand new grid display component and a new grid designer, really allowing you to take that data now from an external data source and present it in the way that your users need to see it. So we have column selection, ordering and naming, so that doesn't sound too exciting. With SQL tile, for example, you could use your select query to filter out the right columns, or you can do that with the OMS tile as well. But with things like the Web API tile, you had the data that comes back from the Web API, and you typically with Web APIs don't have the option to filter out the data that you want. So now on the client side with the grid display, you can now filter out exactly which columns to show, which really makes now integration with some Web APIs practical. You can create custom columns, so you can create brand new columns, composite columns that are taking arbitrary data from your Web API and presenting it in any way you want. And a really exciting feature, custom display templates, a bit like with the custom labeling support we have elsewhere in the product. You can now take that Web API data and customize it in any way you want before display. So using the Moustache template syntax we have elsewhere in the product, you can now fully customize the display of that data in those columns. And lastly, really rounding off the solution is row hyperlinking. So it's no longer just display of data. You've now got that nice seamless workflow between Squared Up and other web applications by linking that data back to the relevant web application. So I wanted to show you as my final demo, a demo of that grid designer and a sort of fantastic integration we have with ServiceNow. So let me just switch back to my demo lab. I'm going to just drill down to a server here. A nice little feature in 3.2 in the in the global search, is that I can just type in web01, hit enter, and it should take me to that automatically. So a nice easy way to navigate to something you know the name of. And what I've done is added in a new perspective here. So I just called it ServiceNow. We'll let that load. You'll see a problem report, so a problem in ServiceNow that is surfaced into this perspective. So this is targeting the Web01 server in ServiceNow. Now, how do we do that? It looks very neat. Let me just go into edit mode and talk you through some of the options here. So we see the ServiceNow provider. We see we're doing a GET request. If I just switch that to POST briefly, you'll see that I have support for JSON, XML, and text. So that's the new support for those different POST types. If I just stick with GET, you can see here we've now got parameterized POST data, or GET even kind of the form data here. So this is now querying ServiceNow dynamically based on the computer name of the computer we've drilled down to. So this perspective is available on every single computer, and automatically that's going to allow us to bring in ServiceNow tickets, ServiceNow problems in the context of that computer. We can select the result set from the API results. So actually ServiceNow doesn't provide just a simple sort of flat table of results. We're having to pick out a certain property from the data returned. And then the real magic with the grid designer is in the column editor here. So you can see I have 5 columns. It's very neat. It's the data that I want to see in the perspective. If I click show all, without the ability to select the columns, I would get all of this data, and you can see that would be unusable. That's actually what the ServiceNow Web API returns us. We obviously even want to pick out just a few of those columns, so we can hide and show individual columns. You can also see here I can edit, so short description. It's a bit messy with that underscore, so let me just take out. In fact, I don't even need the word short. Let's just call it description. So I can rename the data that's coming back, and you'll see that's now updated in my tile here. And then I can also edit the actual display. So if I just take out, this is open by, so you expect this to be a name. If I just take out my custom template, you'll see what comes back from the API is not a name. So it's not open by and then just a simple bit of text. It's open by and then a complex object that has several properties. And many web APIs are like this. ServiceNow is not unique in this way. Now with the display template, what I can do is look at that column data and pick out any arbitrary properties from that. And again, with our custom labeling, the same applies. I can actually now manipulate the string value. I can manipulate an integer value, and I can add in other formatting as I want to. So really, really nice way of now sort of formatting that data so it makes sense to your users and integrate that directly within Squared Up and make it sort of very, very sort of intuitive. The last one, row linking. So you can see here what I've done is put in the URL for my ServiceNow console. Again, it's dynamic. So I'm not just linking off to the ServiceNow console. I'm not just saying, okay, if you want to know anything more about this problem or manage this problem, you're going to have to log on to ServiceNow and find your way. We've parameterized this URL so that it taking the ID of the problem in ServiceNow, it's going to navigate you straight to the relevant UI in ServiceNow. So I'll show you that in action in just a second. So hit done. There's my data. If I now click on that link, so if I want to manage that problem, if I want to know more about this problem in ServiceNow, I have a really nice seamless workflow now where I just click that row and it brings me straight into that problem within the ServiceNow web application. Now, everything I've just shown you is not specific to ServiceNow. Any integration with any other tool that then has a web front end, whether it is Splunk or sort of some other application, you can now provide that sort of seamless workflow across those tools with Squared Up as your first port of call there to allow you to integrate into other more in-depth tooling. So hopefully you can see sort of a lot of the ideas there and a lot of the opportunities, and hopefully the demo we had from Martin Ernst just in that video kind of gives you an idea of really what you can achieve with these integrations. All right, in terms of availability, Squared Up 3.2 will be available to download tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock UK time. We're just sort of finalizing that and uploading it to the download servers. So if you check in at download.squaredup.com or you memorize that URL there, that'll take you to the 3.2 download at 9 o'clock sharp tomorrow morning. So with that, I hope you enjoyed those demos. I'm going to hand back over to Richard South, who's then going to talk a little bit about the resources available for 3.2, some of the events coming up, and some exciting news to finish off with. Stay tuned.
All right, thank you very much, Richard, and well, to you and to sort of all the team here, dev, test, engineering. Thanks and congratulations on an awesome looking release. From my end of the business, we've been working hard too, so a few sort of updates for you. Firstly, just as it's a release webinar, I thought I'd tell you a small new sort of little service that we've implemented is around minor releases and the ability to get proactively notified about them if you want. So you can sign up for that notification service at squaredup.com/releases. So just to confirm, we will always notify you about major releases. So 3.2 is a major release, 3.3 will be a major release. You'll hear about that from both a marketing perspective and from a release perspective. But we won't tell you by default when there's a 3.2.1, 3.2.2, and that's because typically there's a lot of them, and we don't want to be bombarding you with every time we release, something to fix a minor bug sort of here and there. But if you do want to know about that, sign up at squaredup.com/releases, and you'll get an email every time there's a sort of minor release. All right, what I wanted to do, it's been a sort of busy kind of couple of months, is provide you a recap on what's been sort of happening here. We know you're busy guys, you kind of can't stay tuned to every email, every blog post we sort of put out, but you've joined us today. Thank you very much for that. And let me just sort of provide a little sort of summary. So hopefully you already know about our coffee break webinar series, which is regular weekly webinars. We call them coffee breaks because we try to keep them within sort of 20 to 25 minute time frame. They're focused on bringing you the kind of latest news and features. We try and make it a sort of lightweight conversational style. They run every Tuesday at 3 p.m. UK time. We know that's often not a convenient time for people in sort of certain time zones, or you won't be able to join us every week. It's really about making good, fresh content available to you. So the recordings and slides for that are made immediately available via email and via the blog. So if you're not signed up to that already, you can do that at squaredup.com/coffee break series. As I say, sign up to that. If you can't make it to the webinars, it doesn't matter. You'll just be able to sort of stay tuned to all of the content that's kind of coming out of that channel. If you are signed up, as I'm sure most of you are, I just wanted to take this opportunity to give you a little note that you'll be getting an update from that soon from GoToWebinar, which is to update your calendar for all the new sessions we've scheduled for the next sort of coming months. I say that because we know you get lots of webinar emails. We know we all sort of generally ignore them, but that one, you'll want to update your calendar if you have that sort of webinar entry in your Outlook calendar. All right, the last few months have been focused on producing tons of great new kind of content for you. So that's webinars, as we mentioned, lots of videos and tutorials, walkthroughs, both in a kind of video and a blog format, and dashboard packs kind of coming from the community. Now, all of those go out via three main channels: our Twitter account, our blog at squaredup.com/blog, and LinkedIn. So hopefully one of those channels is a good one for you to sort of follow. So if you do want to stay kind of up to date with everything that's sort of coming out all the time, it goes out through those three channels, and there's lots and lots of stuff. So when I was putting these slides together, I just thought, okay, well, what has been going out? I said it's a lot, and this is just a kind of quick recap, performance reporting tutorials, case studies, dashboard packs, articles on OMS integrations, articles on building SLA dashboards, specific squared up tutorials on role-based navigation, custom labeling, service manager integration, tons and tons of content. So all of that has been made available just in the sort of last 2 months. So lot for you to sort of get stuck into, and hopefully you'll have a sort of quick scan over there, see, I'm interested in that, I didn't know about that. Pretty easy to now go find that on our blog. So that's what we've been doing that you might not be aware of. What's kind of coming up next? Well, Richard sort of shared with you a sort of approximate overview of what's coming on the sort of product roadmap. A few things from the other side of the business. So we'll be at Experts Live, a really good conference that's hosted in Berlin in Germany, focused on Windows data center management. we'll be bringing our usual winning combination of whiskey and Lego. So that should be a lot of fun. We'll be doing a Squared Up talk. We'll also be doing a talk sort of very much focused just on the SCOM community. That'll be with whiskey. So if you're in Berlin, come along to that. We'll also be at Microsoft Ignite in Orlando this year, getting pretty hot, I imagine, not least under the lights of our gigantic orange stand, which looks like the Close Encounters alien ship about to land. So if you're there, you've got no excuse for sort of missing us. And that's where we'll be showcasing for the first time some of these really exciting new features that Richard mentioned we'll be introducing in version 3.4. So if you're going to Ignite, come see us. And those who have met us at shows know we always have lots of fun things lined up on the side. Howard, in response to your question that's just come through, come find us on the stand. We'll be very happy to take you for a whiskey afterwards. Don't you worry about that. Also going on in the States is we're going to be putting on a Squared Up technical workshop. So this is going to take place in Minnesota in Q4 of this year. The final date for that is still to be kind of confirmed, but we're putting it on to coincide with a SCOM day, which is being put on via the organisers of MMS. So the Midwest Management Summit, hopefully you guys may know, as a sort of great community event in the System Centre space generally. This day is going to be a SCOM day. There's going to be MVPs, other guest speakers there from the community. The day before that, we're going to put on a Squared Up technical workshop. So exact details to be finalised, but if you are interested in that, we would really just like a little bit of input from you at squaredup.com/US workshop. And there's a little survey there. You can just tell us a few things that will help us as we sort of pull the organisation of that together. All right, what else has been going on? A very sort of busy time in community. So hopefully you all already know about Community Answers, which is our free Q&A platform focused on getting you answers to the problems that you may have with SCOM, OMS, Squared Up, or other sort of technologies in that area. If you're not signed up already, go to community.squaredup.com, get signed up now. That's an absolutely free resource. We've been putting a lot of effort over the last couple of months into sort of really building the community, and the good news is it's thriving. We've seen a really rapid growth of members, questions, answers, and it's always really like heartwarming for us when we see a question come in, someone struggling with something, and like within half an hour, someone from the community has provided an answer. It's great. And as part of our kind of continued commitment to that, you'll see us working to produce more community-focused resources for you. So a little example of that we emailed you all out on a couple of weeks ago was an infographic on 5 great management packs for SCOM, free community management packs. Response to that from you guys has been sort of fantastic, so we'll continue to invest the effort in doing that. So stay tuned on that front. But community, obviously, it's all about you guys. That's why we sort of put the effort into building that platform. We're really trying to sort of rally effort as much as possible. We really think sort of SCOM needs it. And to sort of help encourage that, one of the things that we've introduced to the community platform is a brand new leaderboard. And the leaderboard is so that we can give out prizes for the best contributors on a quarterly basis. So we're just at the end of the first quarter of running this. Here's what the leaderboard looks like. And because they've been such awesome contributors this quarter, we've actually given 2 winners, Janep and Peter Svensson, both of whom coincidentally are from the lovely friendly country of Sweden. And so some awesome Star Wars Lego is X-winging its way to them right now. So thanks a lot to those guys for all their efforts. And as I say, that's now happening every quarter. So get on community, build your rep. You can do that by asking questions, answering questions, upvoting questions. So loads of ways. You can be like me and just go in and upvote all the time and hope you're going to build some points. But I think it would be considered a bit of a fix if we award the prize to me. But lots of ways to build that rep. So hopefully good reasons to get engaged there. Now, I've been looking forward to this part, which is exciting news part 1. I feel I'm sort of stealing a bit of thunder from the technical team here, but there we go. I get to put the slides together, so that's nice. Now, this is a sort of teaser at the moment. I'm not going to tell you kind of too much about this. It's exciting news about something that's coming. But you guys, together with the audience on the webinar that we ran this morning, are the first people to hear about this. Like, thank you for joining us. Thank you for setting time aside to spend, an hour with sort of Squared Up. You're the first to get this news. We think you're going to like it. This is what we've got coming soon. A PowerShell monitoring management pack. The second part is the good part. Awesome, free, community-based management pack. And what it's going to do is it's going to extend the monitoring platform's capabilities, of the SCOM platform to include PowerShell. And we think it's really going to breathe a lot of new life into the platform. So introducing support for PowerShell monitoring via the SCOM console, wherever you currently see VB script. So bye-bye 1995, hello 2017. PowerShell is the language of the IT pro kind of today. Now you're going to be able to take advantage of that within SCOM. Again, to emphasize that this management pack will be being made available completely free and open source. It doesn't directly relate to Squared Up in any way. This is kind of pure SCOM functionality, but we think it really kind of needs doing here in 2017. So we've taken the initiative and done it. So you can hear all about that in detail from the guys who have developed that with some great examples and so on. squaredup.com/free PowerShell management pack. That's where you can sign up to the release webinar. You don't need to worry about remembering that long URL. We'll send you an email about that webinar in a week or so's time. All right, exciting news part 2. Also, this is not me stealing the development team's thunder. This is really my kind of part of the business. But those of you who have been working with us for a while will know we talk to customers a lot, listen to customers a lot, and hopefully sort of very responsive. So this is a sort of truly by popular demand feature, which is we're introducing a new license edition. We're calling that Enterprise Application Monitoring, so just EAM, and it will be available for $10,000 annual subscription. So the important part is this includes all the great features. So visual application discovery and analysis, all the web API integrations you've seen, OMS integration, and it includes 20 named users and all other features. So we heard a number of customers say to us that they felt they kind of fell between a midpoint of the two license offerings that we have at this sort of time. Enterprise Starter Pack, not all of those features you see on the slide there, and 10 named users. Then $5,000. The next option up, a bit of a leap, $15,000, all features and 50 named users. And we heard, and particularly from certain kind of countries where the typical sort of enterprise organization running SCOM is a sort of slightly smaller team, saying like, it's not quite kind of right for us. We feel we fall between those two stools. We want an option that's more suited to us. So that's what we're introducing here. So hopefully that's sort of exciting for all of you guys who haven't, been able to sort of make the leap up to the sort of fully featured edition. Hopefully that makes that a lot easier and a lot more sort of straightforward for you. All right. So that's it from me. Great. Again, that's nice to hear that feedback. Terrific. So very, very pleased on that front. Some questions. Well, let's head off the questions that we know you'll be asking. To reiterate what Richard said, version 3.2 will be available for download tomorrow, UK time, 9 a.m. in the normal place, and you guys will be notified as sort of part of that, and you'll also get the slides and webinar recording. Those will be made available to you both via the blog, and you'll get an email on that. And it might take us a sort of day or two to just kind of compile the resources for that, get the recording into sort of proper shape, upload it to YouTube. But don't worry, those notifications will be kind of coming out to you. So I think that's it from me. I'm just going to pause for a second, wait for any additional kind of questions and comments to come through. Also to see if there's anything that the engineering team haven't been able to answer. So let us know your thoughts on the comments. Let us know any questions. I'm going to pop myself on mute. Richard and I will take a quick look at those, and then we'll be right back with you. Great. So it looks like the engineering team have headed everything off. There was one question. It's a good question. I don't know quite what the answer is to it, but I would just kind of raise it here, which is Karthik asking if there are any online workshops planned or kind of virtual workshops. It's something we would like to do, I guess. We don't yet know kind of what the appetite is for it. And we spent kind of some time trying to find the right platform for it. To be honest, we use GoToWebinar for this. It's fairly reliable, but it's a pretty awful platform in terms of doing anything kind of interactive and making anything feel like a workshop as opposed to just us stuck in a room kind of talking to you. So we're kind of interested in finding out the right way to do a sort of more of an online workshop. We know you guys can't always make it to certain set locations. But it's sort of on our list to try and find a good way. Something I would say on that is that, you know, for anything that you're interested in, whether it's in the product, you know, whether it's on webinars like this, do kind of communicate with us either via chat or drop emails to hello@squaredup.com. You know, there's a kind of small and dedicated team here. So your comments, your feedbacks, or whether it's sort of through support, kind of perforates right throughout the business. So we're always very interested into, you know, in what you're doing, what you're achieving with the product, what you want to see, and so on. So I just encourage you to communicate with us as much as possible. Thank you also, Rick, for the comments there about the online workshops. Yeah, that's good to hear, and we'll sort of take that on board. All right, I think that's everything. We're going to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining us. If any burning questions that you forgot to ask pop into your head, drop us a line at hello@squaredup.com. But other than that, we really look forward to hearing how you get on with version 3.2, and via support, maybe share some stories with us of some good top-end dashboards that you've built once you get that up and running and into production. All right, thank you very much, everybody.